welcome to the American Songbook Association's Sunday Session Series. This series is an ongoing fundraiser for our expanding education programs. The ASA reaches thousands of students across the country teaching jazz, musical theater, and the Great American Songbook in an effort to preserve and promote those timeless American musical legacies. This programming also benefits Cabaret Scenes, the official magazine of the American Songbook Association, devoted to covering live music in the United States and Europe. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Sunday Sessions and that you'll consider a donation to the American Songbook Association. Every dollar helps us achieve our mission to keep this wonderful music playing. $65 gets you a one-year membership to the ASA and a year's subscription to Cabaret Scenes magazine, as just one benefit of membership. See the banner at the bottom of your screen for details or go to www.americansongbookassociation.org for more information. And now the ASA and Cabaret Scenes are pleased to introduce your host, Carolyn Montgomery.
Hello and welcome to this Sunday session. I think this is our 18th episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be hosting it. Our next guest actually pulled me from the throes of COVID. No, I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. And there are many people that were writing in and asking if I was okay. And I am fully recovered from the COVID virus and living to tell the tale, but much more energized and happy to have this wonderful actress. She's a Broadway actress. She's a goddess of improvisation. And she is the host of one of the most celebrated live variety shows at one of the most premier nightclubs in New York City, Birdland. That is the lineup with Susie Mosher. And I'm really, really happy to bring to you today Susie Mosher. Hi, Susie.
Hi, it's me, Susie Mosher, in my bedroom.
Isn't it amazing how that works? I know. I'm in my living room. Yeah, it's incredible. But I am wearing pants and I'm wearing a brassiere, but only because it's you. That's it.
Thank you. And I appreciate it. Believe me.
Yeah.
Nothing. I can't stand somebody not wearing a bra.
Yeah, because we've been wearing those so frequently this year during the pandemic, and we'll get to that. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Good.
You, Carol, how are you?
I am well. I really am, and I'm lucky. I never got really, really sick. Just kind of feeling poorly around the edges, but it took about 2 weeks, and I'm back to it. So I'm looking forward to an end to all this. And I want to talk to you about what's next for you, but let's backpedal way before that and talk about sort of where you were, because you were in a very, very unique spot when the pandemic hit and the world shut down in March. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Well, I was hosting the lineup, which I love more than life. I mean, it's almost I have my ideal job now because I get to do whatever I feel like doing performing wise. I can sing, I can just make stuff up and, just be insane, which I enjoy. But I don't have all the pressure of I realize I don't work that great with pressure. I get very anxious. I have a lot of anxiety. And when it's sort of, in a way, being the host, the focus isn't on you. So I can just relax and breathe and have a good time. So I was doing that. And my wife, we've been together for 26 years. And she was always saying, we're going to have a child. And I was like, I'm sure we are. In another lifetime. But it's like I'm a performer, she was a writer, and it was like, when is that really going to come together? So the years ticked by, and then about 4 years ago she was like, well, it's now. And I'm like, now? Are you kidding? We live in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City, and I'm still a struggling performer. And but she made it happen, and I was fighting it all the way. And then on March 11th, the official day when the WHO said we're in a pandemic, that day she gave birth to Hudson. So we went from the hospital directly into not quarantine, but isolation, and we've been in our own little pod for a year. That's
incredible. Well, first of all, when you said she made it happen, it's incredible. I've been on the end of that wanted to make that baby, and
it's hard.
You make it happen. The ticking happens, and
but
boom.
It's really hard. It is not. It's like we have to go through lots of disappointments and leaps, and then finally, miraculously, it happened. And all through the pregnancy, I was still in some sort of denial, and I mean, I was constantly laughing about it in my show and talking about it, grandma's having a baby, because that's how it felt, it's like I should be a grandmother. But you know
Uh,
what? Life is funny. And I
yeah,
realize that
it
at
is
this age,
funny.
I have a lot to give that I
Yeah,
might not if I had been, still worried about my
absolutely.
career. That's over.
Well,
It's like,
and
whatever.
you do manage to you do make it work, and there is no right time to have a baby. Honestly, if any of us
I guess
tried to
that's
find
true.
exactly the right moment, we'd all be 68 going, no, it's not perfect. We haven't,
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
certainly have.
exactly.
He is really something, that little boy, and
Thank
it's been a
you.
joy.
Thank you.
I think in the midst of all this pandemic madness, I think that Hudson brought a lot of light to a lot of people that I don't know you well. We know each other's people, but I don't know you well. And I found myself looking for your page to
Oh,
see
that's
that
so
little boy.
nice.
Yeah.
He
Well,
he he is. He's like, I don't know. I feel like we've been given this unbelievable gift because he's got such a sweet distemper.
yeah,
He's got
yeah.
distemper. No,
That's just
he's got
but
this. He's got a wonderful personality.
yeah,
He's
no
just a
rabies.
joy to be around, and he's very cute. And I mean, I do a lot of the grunt work with him. I do a lot of the cooking,
Yeah.
a lot. It's all constantly, as you know, constantly. I'm
It,
sure the people aren't interested in hearing the
well,
trials,
I was going to
relations,
say
of
it's going to
grandma
be
having a baby.
It
But
is going to become fodder for your comedy as you get
it
back
is.
to Birdland. And you'll find that, having a baby is hilarious. It actually really is. And it's something a lot of people can relate to. But I want to talk to about baby Susie, not really baby Susie, but where are you from originally? Where were you born?
I grew up in San Diego, California. I grew up
Oh,
in
you
the East County, which is pretty rural.
did? Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's
I didn't realize
beautiful.
you were a West Coaster. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so how about childhood, elementary school, middle school, all in school around San Diego?
Yes, absolutely.
And
Once I got into
and
high school, I was bouncing between my parents. My parents got divorced, and we lived out in Spring Valley. My dad lived in La Jolla, so I spent 1 year there, 1 year. It was, and then I dropped out of high school. So
yeah.
yes, ladies and gentlemen, I dropped out of high school thinking, who needs high school? I'm going to be a big star.
Okay, so that was my next
Yeah.
question. Is that what you wanted to do? And about how old were you when you knew you wanted to be performing?
I instantly knew when the first
You,
time I saw a play, I saw Camelot at the Circle Arts Theater
yeah,
in Mira Mesa, and
yeah,
which is another area in San Diego, and I just went, oh, these people are magical. I want to be
yeah,
one of them,
yeah.
and I want to do what it is that they're doing, and it never wavered for me.
That's
All these
that's
years
well,
later,
no, that's terrific.
it's what I
You,
always wanted to do.
were you here's such a weird question, but I'm curious because I do a tremendous amount of comedy, and people always ask me, "Were you always funny? Were you always funny? Were
Yeah,
you?"
I was,
Yeah,
because I realized I always wanted people to like me. From a very early age, I was obsessed with being liked,
yeah,
and which is not the great quality. It's like I look at myself and I realize how many things I have done because I just wanted approval and I just wanted to be liked, to be accepted.
yeah.
I was an only child, and I was loud and I was kind of obnoxious. I just was look at me all the time.
Well, but if
So
you want to be an entertainer, and I think about this particularly in cabaret, it doesn't really hurt to want to please people. I find that wanting to be entertaining and making people laugh is a very good quality if you want to be on stage. And you can, yeah,
I
and
agree. I agree.
yeah,
But honestly, if I had been a little more less cared so much about what people thought of me, I think I might have matured internally more. I might have become a
yeah,
more mature person,
yeah,
and I think slowly that's happened. But when I was, in my 20s, I was kind of, I had an air of desperation around me, I think,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
always was
Well, yeah. Well, and
wanting.
so improv, this is the other piece of it that I'm so curious because I really have gotten to know you just reading about you, seeing clips of you, hearing about you from people that love to go see you at the lineup. And one of the things that fascinated me, because I love doing it so much too, is your ability to improv. And I wanted to know, have have you always been the person that's just gone with something and made people laugh spontaneously?
Yes, I
Yes.
guess. I mean, isn't that what comedy is when you're not doing an act? Something comes in your mind, you think, I'm going to say that,
Yeah.
and it's like, that's what being funny is. Or I'm going to go in there and I'm going to ask if anybody's seen a little white dog. This would be funny, you guys watch it. And, then
Yeah.
I was always doing things to amuse my friends. They were usually very spontaneous moments. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's what comedy is.
Do you do
I
things
think
to amuse
surprising
Hudson?
people. What?
Yeah. You do things to amuse Hudson? Do you find yourself standing on your head to amuse your child or no?
Oh God, yes. Yes, of course. Of course. Making him smile and laugh is kind of my, that's my new job, frankly.
Yeah.
It's my new job.
Yeah. Well, right about the age that he is too, I found myself being unable to keep my child on the changing table, which we'll talk about that whole thing. But he would wriggle off and I would have to find things to talk about. Look, we got some powder, which
That's
is no
right.
longer, we can't have powder. But yeah, it's too funny.
Yeah, right.
I would love
powder.
Yeah, no
Baby
powder.
powder.
No powder or oil. They ingest that stuff too. No. So one of the things that I'm going to do is, first of all, tell our audience that we have a very large student audience because the American Songbook Association goes out when we're not in the middle of a global pandemic and teaches public school kids in all 5 boroughs. I've been dragging Aisha DeHaas to Staten Island, and all these all these wonderful performers to different boroughs. And a lot of those kids are watching today. And one of the things that I've been trying to explain is improvisational comedy, which they haven't seen, and we haven't done any fun work in that. But one of the things that Susie is best known for, she has a combo, three musicians behind her, and they have learned to just go with it. And she will now, what I wanted to ask you before I play a clip is, does the audience suggest a topic? Do you just come up with something? You come up with it off the top of your head? Yeah.
You know what it mostly is? It's almost my internal monologue. It's like, what am I like? And usually it has something to do with some sort of anxiety that I'm having, and I'll start expressing it, and then it just goes into some wild thing. And Brad Simmons and John Miller and Shannon Ford are the combo, and they're spectacular, and they know me really well, and they just they help me a lot. They'll change a tempo. I love somebody changing a tempo. They'll know if she needs a little help here. So it's a joint effort for sure.
Well, that's a wonderful way to introduce it. So let's play a clip of Susie at the lineup with Susie Mosher doing a little improv as she does.
So what the thing is, when you're depressed and you're embarrassed, it means you're growing. And growth's important. It's all there really is. Change. Everything changes. No one would change if they didn't have to. Why would you change if you were comfortable? So change is always born out of discomfort. So when you feel bad, like your life is going nowhere, when you feel like your career is a sack of shit, remember it's all part of growing and changing, and that's what we're here to do, isn't it? I just want to leave this first song like a smelly rotten egg on this table. I don't know you two cutie pies. Are you dating? No. Are you gay? Maybe. All right, well, here's the thing you gotta know. Everyone, if you're from out of town, you just need to know that everyone in New York is gay. Okay? All right. New York, you're gonna be gay in a few more minutes, and don't worry, it's okay if you want to talk about it, and I know you're gay. You're gay, 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 gay. What thing is?
Oh, I almost played it again. You can hear the audience just losing it in the background. I cannot wait to get into your audience and watch you do that. It's just too much fun. And I want to know, so you drop out of high school, you're living on the West Coast. What happened after that?
Well, my mom died when I was 19, and so I inherited the house, right? So I'm an only child. I have a house, And so what did I do at 19? Started doing lots of drugs and drinking a lot, having keggers every weekend, just partying my ass off. So basically, I wasted my early 20s on people who have real, who really are going to do what I wanted to do with my life. They're going to school and they're getting training. I didn't do any of that. I just, I would sing. I was singing in crappy little clubs and, getting super high afterwards, just, wasting my life, Carolyn. And then at about 26, I went, I better do something because it doesn't seem that anyone's coming into core sorrows and discovering me. So I better start doing something. And by that time, in a lot of ways, it was too late. So I started, but I started auditioning and really trying to get work. And I did. I worked in regional theater and I did a lot. I did a lot of stuff. And then, I was just piecing together a career like you do. Like so many of us do.
It's amazing that you managed to do that, to pull it together and do that when you're 19. Yeah, which is incredible, actually, because I know if somebody had given me a house at 19, I'd still be living in the bottom of a gin bottle with a joint in my hand. That there's no way. I had people going like this at me, sending me off to music school. And so you managed to pull your poop into a group and work, which is very cool.
I'm going to use that. I pulled my poop into a group and said,
And when and where did you meet Hope? Was it about this time?
Oh, no. I met Hope. I met Hope when I was living in Los Angeles. I was doing a show, and she came with a friend of mine to see the show, and then we all went out afterwards, and we just struck it up, and that was a long time ago. And
yeah, it's amazing. So Los Angeles, you moved to LA to work more, because it was the place to go.
I originally moved. I finally got my ass to New York in the early 90s. I was doing a show off Broadway. I was in a show off Broadway called Suds.
Yes.
The rocking 60s musical. You really? Are you saying yes, really, because you know it, or you read it that I did?
No, because I read that you were in it. I was reading it.
But if they still do it all over the place, I bet maybe one of your viewers might have seen it or been in it. But because they still do it, it's a great show. And so I came to New York to do that, and that was in, like I said, the early 90s, and I lived here for a couple of years, and I started a relationship, not with Hope, and we moved out together to California because she was from California as well, and that's when we moved to LA. So so that was like 94 maybe, and and so then I was in LA, and I did projects in LA all the time, and I auditioned. I did a lot of tiny parts in movies and television. I did a lot of it. It was the waiter, the clerk, the pregnant receptionist, that
with
who had
line.
like 3 lines that perpetuated the story, but it was fun. It was exciting, but I didn't love it. I don't love doing film and television because it's a very you're by yourself. You're not you don't get together. At least I didn't. It was basically like I learned my line, 10 lines by 10 lines, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, you're on with Vanessa Redgrave. I literally had scenes with the biggest stars of the time, Vanessa Redgrave being one, and I had to, and it was like I was like praying, please let Vanessa think that what I'm doing is okay for her, because I'm just saying the lines I've been saying to myself for and they light you, and then you go.
Yeah, it's compartmentalized acting. Whereas
I like rehearsing.
You're with a group. Exactly. And it's a very, very different genre. So did you ever do stand-up? Did you ever do stand-up?
No, never did. I had never. Now looking back, I think I probably would like to do it. I mean, although again, I like doing improv because I don't have to remember what it is I was going to say. I can't stand that. I like just barfing it out and trying to make it make sense. It's like a comedian has their, but I would do comedy. I'd like to. Why not? Sure.
It's very interesting because people assume when you're funny that you could do stand-up. And I did one gig I filled in over Thanksgiving weekend in 1997 at Caroline's on Broadway. And I killed. I was in, I think Judy Gold was sick. And I went in and I did it. And I will never do it again for as long as I live. It was the most
It was scary?
exhausting. It was
Exhausting.
exhausting. And I couldn't hide behind a song. You know, I would do song improvs and things like that, and I couldn't. It was all about the role and the bit, and it was a lot. I stand up to song. So New York, is it your home, or do you ever think about heading back to the West Coast?
Never. No, I'm here to stay. Well, I live in Manhattan Plaza. I will never leave. Manhattan Plaza, for those of you who don't know, is a sort of a subsidized, like it's 70%, and these two huge are performers and people who would work in the industry. And we have this blessed thing where if you're not making any money, your rent goes way down. If you're making money, your rent goes up. But it's like you don't have to worry that you're going to lose your job because you're not working. And so that's you
right.
know,
you
amazing.
can have
he will be here forever.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's great for parents that are in the business because
Wonderful.
you can have an outstanding year where you're just constantly working, and then the next year you not so much.
Like
and that's
this year, like this year.
That's pretty
the year I was glad we lived here.
Yeah.
So I love New York.
Yeah, me too. And it's a great place to raise a kid. It's a wonderful place.
Too.
It really is. You get this well-rounded, wonderful kid, and yes, if they want to play sports, they can play sports and all of that stuff. So it's
for sure.
Yeah. So with the improv, my question to you, because it's so hard to explain to people, you're standing there, and typically in an improv show, somebody gives you a suggestion, and you take off with it. And I think you're pretty good at that too, because you wouldn't be good at what you do without, just being able to think quickly on your feet. What made you think of doing improv as like your opening monologue? It really sets you apart from anybody else.
Well, you know what? It's always been my party trick. One of my best friends, I'm going to name drop, is Kathy Najimy, and we grew up together, literally. And, we always had musician friends, and every party, Kathy would say, "Susie, sing a song." And I'd be, okay. And I would just make up a song about what was going on, who's doing what, and what, and so it became something I was very comfortable doing, and it was like a party trick. And then I had never thought about hosting a show. It had never even been on my radar at all. And when I first moved here, I moved here to do Hairspray on Broadway, which was the most exciting, fabulous thing that ever happened in my life. And when I moved here, I started going to a club, a place called the West Bank, which has a club, the Laurie Beachman, downstairs. And this guy, Brandon Cutrell, do you know Brandon?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Cutrell in the world, yes.
Yeah. He had a show called After Party.
I remember.
And I would go in there and do stuff. And then he was sick, and he said, "Do you want to, will you host for me?" And I was like, "I bet." But the second I started hosting, I felt this complete calm, because it wasn't about how good is her voice, and it's so grueling here. Everyone sings. I'm so tired of hearing people sing, even if they're great. I don't even care, really. I mean, I do, but everyone sings, and everyone sings.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I'm not that good of a singer. I could sing fine, but I'm not a great singer. So I'm just going to start doing this, just because it tends to get a better reaction, again, and I wanted people to like me. So I started doing what they seemed to respond to, and that was it. And now it's my thing.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a very, very specific talent to be able to host, because you also have to be able to do a great intro, a fun and entertaining intro, keep the thing rolling, which you do, making your guests feel comfortable. And you have some pretty darn illustrious guests on your show. I want to talk to you.
Yes.
How does one get somebody like, say, Tony Award-winning Beth Level to come up and hang with you? She's pretty wonderful.
She's the best. Like, here's the thing. I had done a show with her, and we became friendly. And all the people that I've asked, almost all of them, are people I already know. I've either done a show with them, because I've done a lot of theater, and so I've got a lot of friends, and a lot of them are younger than me. So the young, I get the kids who were in the ensemble, and I'm like, "Do you want to come sing a song?" And they're like, "Yes, I do."
Yes.
But then I also have a lot of pretty sparkly friends that I'll say, "Yeah, I'll come." And
I'll show a few of them. Let me show some folks.
Let's see who.
Look at pretty Kat McPhee. She's so fabulous. Wonderful singer. And also Miss Marilyn May, who's just just celebrated her 93rd birthday. I don't know if I caught some of the live footage from the Wick where she just did a show. She's
Billy
not
Stritch is down there.
Yes, exactly. And she's not just a good singer for 93. She's just a freaking great singer, you know.
She's a great singer. I am literally her biggest fan. That Marilyn, being able to hang out with Marilyn and just hang and shoot the shit with her has been one of the biggest blessings I've ever been given. I mean, I give it this because to me, she is everything I would dream of being, you know. She's wonderful.
Me too. And she's just a consummate professional. So for the lineup and in terms of going forward, what is going on with Birdland and with you, and what are we expecting in the next few months?
I mean, I'm sure you're aware that there's been a fundraising. These three guys, Tom Dangora and his husband Michael Dangora and Tim Guinea, were literally so upset that they heard that the West Bank was going to close that they said, well, let's do a fundraiser. Let's do a fundraiser. And they did. They did a telethon, which was so great. And they raised $400,000. Now the West Bank is staying open and then, so when that happened, I said to Tom, Tom and Michael are very close friends of mine. I said, listen, we want to do the same thing for Birdland because I want a place to come back to. And he said, we'll do it for you. And I was like, okay. And they took over and did another huge, beautiful show. And they raised like $450,000. And it was like, wow. And now they're doing it for the York. In fact, it's tonight.
Yes.
And so I feel very confident that Birdland's going to get through this little time. It's still very difficult for a club to be open because of all of the restrictions, and it's I went and saw a friend of mine do a show at the Green Room 42, which is fantastic, last night, and it was there was like 33% capacity, so it was a big room with not a lot of people. Everyone was wearing masks. They weren't able to serve food or liquor.
Oh,
and we watched the show, which was fantastic. It was you have to see Ken Boisinger. It's Michael West, but his character is so funny. I can't. So the show was great, but there was nightlife should be sexy. Nightlife should be, like a cocktail. Not that I drink. I used to a lot, but I don't anymore. But it should be. You want to look good. You want to feel good when you're out at night. And like people in masks watching a show, nothing to eat or drink was not. It wasn't it for me, And so I think that the plan is that we're going to open again, like in the summer, like at some point when they can actually make $1 and that people will actually come. And with my show, it's like I've got like 6 or 7 guests, and what are we have to share mics, and my whole thing is like, I love you, and like, the whole idea of doing it it's not quite right yet, but we will be back, and Birdland will certainly be back.
We will be back.
So
and that's the truth is, I've never been a particularly science-minded person, but I find myself following the science. And I do like to tell our viewers that, we are now as a country at 26% vaccinated. And when we get to somewhere between 65 and 70% vaccinated, which our current president is really working hard to make that happen with the CDC, me too. And once we get there, and everyone says, well, that could be a really long time. Well, actually, not really, because we've gotten 26% of this nation vaccinated since the end of January. So I think you're absolutely on target. And I think that it's not sexy when you have a tiny little room with people who can't have a cocktail. Even if you don't have a cocktail, that other people who can't.
It's not what we're doing. It's like night in New York should be glamorous and exciting, and it just, I'm thrilled for Green Room.
Yeah, me too.
I love them. I love Daniel Dunlop. I love all of the people that work there. All my friends work there, but it's like and I'll go support, but it's not what and now that I know that Birdland has been funded by this incredible fundraising, I feel really confident that even if I think they're going to open before I decide to go back to my show because of the nature of my show. So I'm really looking probably maybe the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
for me personally to do my show where I'm asking people to come and be my guests and use a mic that other people, we'll wipe it off,
Well,
for God's sake. But,
one of the brilliant things about getting older, and as I get older, I see a lot of brilliant things about it. But one of the things that I know is that time does go by, and time goes by a lot more quickly than we think. We say 6 months, and when you're 20 years old, you think 6 months. Oh my
Right.
God. Now you're like 6 months is going to happen in the blink of an eye. I just introduced Susie to my almost 17-year-old son, whose diaper I was changing yesterday, and also, we might not be back to exactly the normal that we're used to, but we will get back to something. These people, what I love is the fatalists who are like, New York is dead. I'm like, New York will never.
Are you kidding? Never.
Yeah,
Never.
exactly. People may leave New York, and they can certainly do that and throw in the towel, and they should have a good time in Sheboygan. But the rest of us are going to stay in New York and watch it come to its full glory.
Come back and watch it come back, which is part of the glory of New York, It's like it goes up and down. It's like
well, and now as the Sweeney sisters would say in Saturday Night Live, I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to bring it down. No, I don't want to suck the air out of the room, but I do have a question for you that occurred to me as you were telling me a little bit about your teens and early 20s. For those kids that I'm working with that have, and we've talked about this very, very frankly, parents that either are not around or not very supportive of what it is they want to do. My question for you is, did you have anybody, an older person in your life, any kind of a mentor? Was there a person at any point that encouraged you and made you pull yourself towards performing and getting it done, or was it just you on your own?
Well, I had people that recognized that I had something. And one of them was when I was in my early 20s and a raging alcoholic, this guy who had a jazz club and had been playing, he was an older guy, Jimmy Corsaro. And he saw me singing at a club and said, why don't you come and sing with me? And I was thrilled because I knew who he was. And he really gave me, did you talk about the American Songbook? He introduced me to the greatest singers. I mean, he introduced me to Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and all of the greats, and really got me listening to it. And I became obsessed with jazz. And that's what I spent my, I was a jazz singer. And that is really the American Songbook, the jazz world, because
absolutely.
So I know a lot of that material and I love it. And so I would say he was a wonderful influence on just getting me to focus on that music. And because I was going to be a singer, that was my thing. And I'm a musical theater performer, but I sang in clubs all my 20s and 30s,
Well, and as you pointed out very correctly, is as we also see a lot of singers, hear a lot of singers in New York, you can go to Don't Tell Mama any night of the week, or you'll be able to soon, and hear a 23-year-old belter barf up a lung singing a song with absolutely no idea of what he or she is saying. And then somebody else will come up there. I mean, when you think of some of the best song interpreters in the world, do they have the best voices? No. Cyndi Lauper have the best voice in the world? No, but I'd rather sit in a
She's got a great voice.
Yeah, she's got a great voice, but it's all her own. And she knows exactly what she's singing,
Yeah.
I would venture to say you're exactly the same way. Is that you use your voice as part of the whole picture to get an idea across. We don't have to hear you sing Let It Go from Frozen. We've got a lot of people that can do that. Yeah.
and the truth is that everyone feels like I need to sing the highest. I need to belt the highest. It's still everyone's doing it. It's what everyone was doing when I was a kid. It's who can belt? Who's got that mix where you don't know, and it's like, I'm bored. I don't care. I don't care if you can sing those high notes. I mean, because most people are not as good as Idina Menzel. So I think really you're going to do a song that we're all going to go, oh, yeah, it ain't good. But then when someone does, you're impressed. But it's like it's like a trick. I don't feel anything. I don't care. I need to feel something when I want
Make me feel something. Make me,
and make me laugh.
Yeah. Aren't there people that somebody gets up to the mic and you've never seen them before in your life, and all of a sudden the entire room just goes like this and is riveted.
Absolutely.
And it is that person who, some people can do it when they're 15. Most people get it when they're a little older. But I find that there's just a quality of knowing yourself and knowing what you can sell. Do you remember, I don't know if you were, you probably were, Claiborne Carey. Do you remember the singer?
I know the name, but I don't know who that is.
I remember sitting at a place called Danny's Skylight Room with her, and somebody would get up. Yep. And Claiborne would be speaking to me. She was so brilliant. And she'd be speaking and somebody would belt out a high note and she'd stop talking and go like this. And then we continue the conversation. But that's kind of how I feel these days. So, all right. So motherhood during a pandemic. Have you guys been able to get out of the apartment and travel at all? Or have you pretty much been in your little at home? You have.
We have not a lot. I mean, we've done a few things where we've gone to a friend's house in the country, or we go out and walk all the time. And when it was really in the thick of it, we were like, it was not a pleasant experience because the city is finally starting to come back, but it was like the night of the living dead. People who were just had nowhere to go were like on the streets, and it was
I remember it was a little scary
here. It was it still is, let's face it, it's still a little scary, a little dicey, but it'll come back as soon as Broadway comes back. This area, because we both live in the same area, it's like there isn't the influx of people here anymore, so it's just kind of like and all those hotels that are now housing criminals and whatever. It's like it's a weird vibe Midtown for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I think all over the city, it's very, very quiet. A lot of people moved out to the burbs and abandoned the city, but this is the first year that New York did not make one of the top 10 most expensive places to live. Did you know that?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
This is the time.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now's the time to buy in New York, kids. If you want to come to New York, get an apartment now, because it will come back. You'll have a beautiful apartment.
We're going to have this huge influx of new blood coming into New York.
Yep, it's true.
So if you look around our neighborhood, all these little mom and pop shops are opening the way it used to be before the big, huge, massive Dunkin' Donuts and stuff like that moved in. Now we've got
noticed that. I'm excited to see.
Yes,
I've seen so many places close. I mean, so many places close.
It's heartbreaking.
9th Avenue and
it's hard. For having owned a restaurant in Manhattan, and it only had 36 seats, but it was one of those wonderful New York City places that people loved, and that started getting knocked out by places like Panera Bread, and you know what I mean? The chains.
I totally know. The change.
Yeah. So we're going to go through some revamping. I brought another clip of you improvising, as long as you don't mind me doing this. I'm going to put on there.
No, go ahead. What?
Oh, please. No, not me singing again.
Oh.
One more improv. And I want you guys to think about, walking out on stage with a group behind you playing and singing about whatever pops into your head, because that is what Ms. Mosher does better than almost anybody else I have ever seen. Here we go.
I realize that there's gonna be a lot of disappointment. They haven't felt the sting of rejection. Just you wait, you kooky little kids. I've had a rocky road in my career. The last rejection hit me in the rear and put me into therapy, but that's okay. I started taking my Lexapro, and now I'm feeling real go, go, go. I may have some sort of heart attack, but no one's dying tonight, so don't worry about me. Don't you worry about me. Look at Gina. Gina's in the middle of the floor. Wait.
Lexapro, go, go, go.
See, it's easy, Carolyn. It's easy.
You make it look easy. So I want to know if you have any kind of Mosher bucket list, anything that you're so somebody walks into your show and says, oh my God, that's it. This is the girl we need to play X and such. Would you love to be back on Broadway doing another show?
I loved being in Hairspray more than anything. It was as exciting and magnificent. And the end of that show, the finale of Hairspray, is like going into the light every single night. That's an interesting question. I sort of had my heart broken. A part that I thought had been written for me, and I workshopped for a long, long time, and I got nothing but positive response from everyone and everything. I was up for awards for it. And then when it moved to Broadway, I was replaced. And that really kind of devastated me.
Yeah.
And I that's when I got really, that's what I was talking about. I got really depressed, and I thought, you know, I started really questioning. I lost my confidence.
Yeah.
And confidence is essential to performing. You have to not have the little voice going, why did you say that? What do you mean? That's embarrassing. You have to be able to not have that going on. And all of a sudden, at auditions, at readings, I was like a wreck. I could not pull myself together. And I was in really big readings and really important things, and I was blowing it, frankly, blowing it in front of important people. And I just realized that I have real anxiety issues. I joke about it, but it really, it's one of the reasons I love improving, because I don't have to remember what it is I'm supposed to do. That when I am like trying to remember my lines and remember where I go, and if it's new, I get very anxious, you know? And it's like, I get out of myself and what makes me good. You know, what makes me good is that I am alive right in front of you, as opposed to, you know, I think I'm great on stage in parts. I really do. I've always been told I'm wonderful, and I think when I see me, I go. But that experience really flipped me out, and you know, that wasn't that. That was like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and it's still. I don't know how much I love. I get so nervous.
Yeah.
I get so nervous.
That makes perfect sense. And I think it's a really, really good thing to point out that, first of all, you don't know that you've lost your confidence until you actually, you don't really know what your confidence and your foundation is until it gets whipped out from under you. That's and then it really is, it's a very real thing. And I believe, especially for our viewers, that it's something that you can, if it's something that you desperately wanted to do, I have no doubt, Susie, especially because you've dealt with all sorts of issues in your life, that you could rebuild it. If it was something that you wanted to focus on. I
feel like I could too. I feel like my confidence is back now. I don't feel like the sad character shuffling down the street that people are going, oh, you know.
Right. But
like,
at the same
I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah. But at the same time, also the wisdom to know if you walk into an audition and go, this is so not for me. This is making me feel like shit. It's making me not happy with myself. It's making me know this is not for me. That's if the absolute right thing came along and it was absolutely right for you, I have no doubt you'd kill it.
I think that too, because I feel like now people would respond to what I'm doing now and go, you know, I think my confidence level is that. But honestly, I'm going to tell you the truth. I have to take beta blockers before auditions, and beta blockers they're a thing. What's the real use for beta blockers?
If you have a chemical in your body that's released when you're really, really, really nervous, that's what the beta blocker blocks, right? That's what I understand.
Exactly. And so, what the effect it has on me is it makes me I'm still nervous, but all of the physical, like the shake, the not being able to concentrate goes away, and I'm fine. You know, so it's really, you know, kids, beta blockers, get into it.
But you also don't have that before you go on to host your show, do you?
No, I don't, because I don't need it. I don't.
Exactly.
It's a different thing.
Well, yeah. And when you do find, you hear this from so many people. My son right now is going through this. When you know what college is for you, it's just going to hit you. Or when you know what you want to do with your life, he wants, one day he wants to be a public defender, and the next day he wants to be an artist, But when you do find it, you do know. You know, you really do know. And the hosting thing is very spectacular. It's a very specific talent that you have in your own way. And you don't need no stinking beta blockers for that, because it's like you're at home, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
And so pursuing that kind of a thing is, and it's so clear to me. I can't, as I've said, almost every person I've had on this show, I either know well or I've seen them extensively on stage. And the exception is you. And I feel like I'm opening up a present, because this is so exciting to see this.
Thanks
And
a lot.
well, absolutely. But we will have you back when the lineup is back. I'm going to be out there filming you unless you don't want me to.
No,
And
wait a minute. I think you should come and sing. You should be one of my guests.
Well,
I'm going to make that happen, Carolyn.
That's
my guest. I say you. Come on.
We could do an improv duet. It would never end. We'd be there till Wednesday morning, you know, pulling ourselves off the stage. One more rhyme.
One more.
Well, you are absolutely. Oh, wait. I have to show this. Look at this family shot. Look.
Oh.
Look. There's
Look at that baby.
Hudson and Hope, who's just lovely, and Susie, who looks like the cat that ate the canary, because she has the most.
I feel like it.
Family. Yeah. Thank you so much for being with us. You have been a delight. Susie Mosher of the Lineup with Susie Mosher at Birdland. Keep an eye out for it, because it is coming back. Thanks, Susie.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next guest on the 24th at 4 o'clock is Sydney Meyer, who is also our cover boy for next issue of Cabaret Scenes magazine. If you join the American Songbook Association, one of the privileges and benefits of membership is a year's subscription to Cabaret Scenes magazine, as well as invitations and tickets to our gala and all sorts of wonderful events. So we hope that you'll join us next week at 4 o'clock. We thank Susie Mosher so much for showing up. We hope that you can make a donation to the American Songbook Association or become a member. I'm Carolyn Montgomery saying good afternoon and thanks so much for being here.